proud to welcome you all to join in the SWIMS family, because from today onwards, even if you leave the institute, you are part of the SWIMS family, like alumni of the SWIMS and Padmavati Medical College complex. And I'm very happy to be part of this orientation program, which is being organized every year from 2014. And I extend warm greetings to everybody who is present online as well as in this lecture hall. Greetings from Sri Venkateswara Institute of Medical Sciences and Padmavati Medical College for Women. I think all of you are familiar, and every student of any specialty, any branch should know that Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amrutangamaya. Oh God, lead me. The purpose of any learner or a student, whatever Sasvitam Nunchi Sasvitam, from darkness to light, and whatever is mortal to the immortal, we have to understand the life. Whenever I come for any of these orientation programs of this medical college, I have a lot of nostalgic memories, and I feel proud to say, and I feel honored and blessed with the God that I was the person instrumental for starting this college in my previous term as a director and vice chancellor. During my second part of directorship last term, actually the genesis, just I'll spend about a minute or two. The genesis of this medical college, because as all of you know, the SWIM started as a super specialty institute, starting in way back in 93 February. And I feel very proud. I think currently I'm the only person who joined in the institute November 26th of 1992 in this institute. Even before starting of our institute opened on, the SWIMS is inaugurated and started functioning from February 26, 1990. We were about 8 to 9 faculty supposed to be called as the founders of this organization. I think currently I'm the only person left. Till last month ago, Dr. Srinivasa was there. He superannuated 6 months ago. And we were the people involved even before the functioning of the institute, the organizational setup of SWIMS, and basically selecting everybody. And that's why I feel over the last nearing 30 years, I have grown with the institute to the present state. And I feel very honored and blessed because of Lord Venkateswara. In that context, this institute was initially started as a super specialty institute, mainly concentrating on heart, brain, kidney. That's why the super specialty was started and associated with, along with the related departments like radiology, pathology, biochemistry, where what is required for a patient care. Then within 2 years, it became a university. Once we started a university, when we wanted to start the courses, normally those days the MCI guidelines were there. First you have to start with MBBS, then MD, then you have to start on DM courses. But here it was a reverse. It was a super specialty branches were there, broad specialty branches were there, MBBS was not there. That intention of that time, our idea was to start a super specialty DM and MCH courses. There was a lot of hurdles, but anyhow, with a lot, because very few institutes in the country have those super specialty, broad specialty courses without starting undergraduate courses. Examples must be Postgraduate Institute of Chandigarh, where there is no undergraduate course. Similarly, Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences, Trivandrum. Except 2-3 in the country, the ratio, those days, it is to be first you have to start with MBBS undergraduate, followed by the broad specialties and super specialties. In those days, it was very difficult to start, though it became a university in 1995. It took almost 9 to 10 years for our organization to start DM and MCH courses. Finally, we got it. How we got it? Quoting PGI, Trivandrum, Chitra Institute, Trivandrum, like that. With the struggle with an MCI, we got it. But to further expand all the broad specialties, initially we started DM super specialty courses, MCH. Then subsequently, when we wanted to start broad specialty, again the same problem started. Like to start MD anesthesia, medicine. Most of the time, inspectors used to ask you should have an undergraduate course. With that idea, somewhere around 2005, the idea of starting a medical college was synthesized in this organization. But some reason, initially it was planned to start at Renigunta land. I think now some of your locals know there is some buildings also are there. As there was a shortage of funds, it was thought like a public-private partnership, Panchikamakoti. But some reason, it took in a different route. When I took over 2009, the trust part did not work to the suitable to our needs. Then, when we approached that time, Chief Minister was Kiran Kumar Reddy Garu. He said, and they went to the court, there were a lot of legal issues, and it may take a lot of time to get out of that. Then, meantime, the Medical Council of India has sometimes relaxed its requirements like land requirements. Earlier, it used to be very strict. When they say the minimum land required is only 25 acres, then we immediately approached TTD to give the land between our swims and SV University. And with that idea, we thought instead of going too far away to the Renigunta with all the logistics, I felt it's better to have a college in this campus itself. That somehow it got finalized somewhere around 2012-13. We got the land, and then there was a proposal, like we have a SV Medical College where I passed out my MBBS in 1982. Then within less than a square of 1 meter, how to start another, that was another objection raised by the MCA and local AP Medical Council. Then suddenly we thought, in entire country for exclusive for women other than Lady Hardinge College, nowhere there in the country. We thought it has a Padmavati Medical College in the name of Goddess Padmavati and exclusive for women. With that, somehow I think with the blessings of Goddess Padmavati, when we sent this proposal, MCAs agreed, and then finally we started this college. The land, Renigunta land of 150 acres still there, but that is with the legal, this maybe we are used for some other expansion, but by the grace of God, and the foundation stone for this construction of the building was done in 2013, and the government has sanctioned 180 acres. And I think this is what I just mentioned. It is only second women medical college in the country after Lady Hardinge Medical College, New Delhi, under government sector. And the first batch started 2014-15, and they served the society from 2020. The building which you are seeing is attached to Medical College Hospital, which was inaugurated by Honorable President of India in 2017. And first 3-4 years, we have started classes, everything in our own SWIMS campus. And by 2016-17, these buildings came up on this one. And I would like to once again, congratulate all the MBBS 2020 batch who was chosen SWIMS Padmavati Medical Campus as their academic pursuance. And I think this is the first student who joined our organization this year, Ms. Sirisha from Gujarat. And initially it was started for 150 girl students. Subsequently, the government has increased to 175. And thanks to the neat uniform procedure of admission across the country by this government, now 25% quota we get all over India. And then make this organization self-sufficient, because those who are the general potential, the government has agreed at 25% of seats on NRI quota. Now you know that there is a lot of change in the medical education curriculum. What we studied 3 decades ago is, or 4 decades ago, is entirely different. Because the medical science is ever changing, the requirements are changing, and some of you know that there is a change in the quality of medical education deterioration over the last 2 decades or 3 decades. Initially, it was clinically art of medicine, though the science was not advanced, but there was a lot of respect for the medical profession. But over the last 2-3 decades, with the advancement of technology, but there is a breach in the patient-doctor relationship, and the quality of education also is at stake. In view of that, present Medical Council of India and National Medical Council, now called, has made what are the core competencies for Indian medical graduates. And I request all the students should keep in mind these 5 aspects which you should become at the end of 5 years. Because all these years you have been under coaching classes in a classrooms, and where you have been taught regular classes and you by heart it and you reproduce it. That's not the what you have. You have to change your approach, and you have taken a good decision of joining into this medical profession. I again re-emphasize, this is one of the noblest profession you have ever taken. And only sincere thing is you should change your attitude now. You should change your personality now. Having taken this, no regrets. You should again see that you are a divine soul. You should have yourself to think that you are a divine soul, and that God has given you to this opportunity to serve you, help others. You should always feel proud for getting this opportunity. You should be a good clinician. One thing you should keep in mind, that you are a lifelong learner. Compared to other specialties, other branches, medicine is a lifelong learning. Each patient will teach you. You should think that the patient may be in distress. He has come to ask you, seeking your help. But at the same time, you should realize that the patient has come to you to teach medicine. Each patient is a different. No patient will read textbook and come, I have got this symptom, this. Each patient is a unique. You should always look in that each patient is going to teach new things from my earlier existing knowledge. Because medicine is an ever-changing subject. Unless you are cope up with this concept of lifelong learning, you could never succeed. Because this medical profession is the only profession till your last breath you can help others. No other profession you can do this. Because you know that when we were students of neurology in NIMHANS in way back in 1984, there were no CT scan, there were no MRI machines. To diagnose, we used to have all very difficult procedures, injecting dye into the carotid arteries, injecting air into the brain called pneumoencephalogram. Those sort of procedures we used to do. But for that time, that was the science. But over the years, now you know there is a lot of advances in the imaging technology, CT scan, PET scan, MRI. Without those procedures, we cannot, now we have a safe diagnosis. That means unless if whatever I have learned in 1984, if I stick to that, if I don't learn this MRI, PET scan, I'll not be able to treat the patient. That's the reason science is ever changing. And whatever today, like those days I told you, that angiogram all were up to date that day. But today those are all became an obsolete. Today, like we have an MRI and PET scan, but when you go to the next generation, by the time you complete, today is 1.5 Tesla is up standard, but after that it may come 7 Tesla, 9 Tesla. You will start seeing the molecular imaging. Now what you are seeing the structural image. That's why this ever-changing science, ever-advancing science, you should always keep, I should be the lifelong learner. Most important aspect of a medical student is a good communication skills. You are talking to a person who are in distress. You should, they may be sometimes very angry, upset, but you should be calm, composed, and see that how we should communicate. Another most important is how to disclose a bad news, or how to disclose a which is not palatable. That also you should learn. And then you should have a good leadership qualities. And then this is a professional course like other things. You should always have a professionalism. Whatever you do it with a, like what my previous speakers have told, you should do with commitment. Like this, all of you should know, medicine is both science as well as art. This is the unique speciality where you have both together. What is science? Science basically technology based on science is foundation for solution to clinical problems, advances in biochemical methodology, biophysical imaging techniques, and new innovation. All this is a science of medicine. But what is an art of medicine? Art of medicine is ability to extract a contradictory physical science. Like to know the diagnosis, you should have a thorough clinical examination. The clinical examination findings, each patient is unique. That how you elicit of these findings is an art. And similarly, ability to interpret laboratory data. There may be a data, whether that is applicable to that patient or not, you should have your own judgment. And sometimes to know whether to treat or watch, you may have a correct diagnosis, sometimes correct, but there is something called certain things will improve spontaneously. You should know whether to treat or whether to watch. Determine when to pursue clinical review or when to dismiss. To decide which is of greater risk, treatment or disease, you should always the risk-benefit ratio for any increase. All these things you should use it. This is not going to be given in any scientific textbooks. It's all depends upon your intuition, your judgment. That's why the combination of medical knowledge, intuition, judgment is the art of medicine. All three components are important to be a successful clinician. You should have a scientific knowledge, medical knowledge should be there, but at the same time, you should use proper judgment and intuition. The art of medicine exists since the time of primitive medicine. Even before this advances came, centuries ago, the medicine was there. But science of medicine changes with the progress of science and changing concepts from time to time. Again, to re-emphasize, art of medicine deals with compassion, care, sympathy, etc., are the building blocks of the practice of science and medicine. Medicine sometimes considered as a science, sometimes considered as an art. The object of medical science is study the disease. But basically, medicine is supposed to be a scientific study and practice as an art. And the art of medicine deals with the whole gamut of doctor-patient relationship, which requires compassion, a caring attitude from the doctor, besides the communication skills. I think all of you should be familiar with this textbook, Harrison Principles of Medicine. And you are fortunate enough that, like, when we were studying the course first 1 year, there was a organic chemistry, then basic sciences 1 year, then subsequently paramedical, and then clinical course. We used to go to the clinics or bedside clinics only at the 3rd year. Now it's a changing concept. The last year, the government of India has changed something called foundation course, which already the principal emphasized, and then importance of early clinical exposure. That means within first 6 months you can do. Then subsequently, like your attitude, ACCA principles, and then competency-based exam. That's why you must be now within 6 months itself or 1 year, you'll be having going to the wards and you should know about the medicine. This is like a standard textbook of medicine which you should remember. Harrison Principles of Medicine. It's given tact, sympathy, understanding are expected of the physician, but the patient is not mere collection of symptoms, signs, disordered functions, and damaged organs, disturbed emotion. You should always see he is a human, fearful, hopeful, seeking relief, help, reassurance. Sometimes, like in the wards, they'll talk this case, like that. Please see that there is an individual behind it, there is a human person behind it. Similarly, even sometimes paraclinical branches, pathology, radiology, they may think this sample, this X-ray. No, there is a human person behind that, that always you should keep in mind. All of you know that the father of modern medicine is Hippocrates, and I think everybody should be familiar with Hippocrates' oath, which when you finish your course will be asked to pledge Hippocratic oath. He mentions wherever the art of medicine is loved, there is also love of, and like what our dean has mentioned, that wherever there is a, if you are healthy, if you are this one, love in your mind, automatically your surroundings and your environment will be loved. Is a famous thing Sir Leopold says, medicine to, again I want to re-emphasize, it is the art plus science plus empathy. The secret of the care of patient is caring for the patient. Whenever any patient comes, if you are dealing with this, always think once a second in your mind, if he is being my own relative, how I treat. He may be a different person, but always think, suppose if an elderly lady comes, we should think if she would have been my mother, how I feel. If there is an young boy, if he would have been my brother, how I would have reacted. That feeling should develop each and every person when you interact as a patient. And you may think that with advance in science, you can make a proper diagnosis, but over the experience and everybody we know, 80% of the diagnosis comes by taking proper history and through symptoms. And then 5 to 10% by proper clinical examination. That means for 85% of the time, you are right if you do proper clinical history as well as the examination. With so much of a modern advanced equipment, scientific knowledge, the diagnosis will be added only in another 8% by investigation. Why I am mentioning is when you have prescribed investigation, we use very judiciously. What is that I am going to expect? If it is abnormal, how I have to do? No point in writing if a patient comes with a headache, MRI, CT scan, all sorts of investigations. Headache can be diagnosed by 85% with a proper history and taking. Especially why I'm mentioning is because these investigations are cost factors to involve. The way we are living in a developing country, cost makes quite a much importance for the patient care. We should judiciously use where it is required. If you do proper history taking as well as the clinical examination, 85% you are right or you are correct in your clinical diagnosis. Investigation will add only 8%. And even after the investigation, sometimes you may not be able to diagnose well. You are able to diagnose only in postmortem. Am I audible? No, ఇక్కడ వాళ్ళకి ఏదో రాలేదు. Okay. Studies have shown that human life expectancy mainly depends on proper food and healthy diet, immunization, clean drinking water, and sanitary facilities, in addition to education and economic empowerment. Very little depends upon high-tech medicine. That means that why I am mentioning this is prevention is better than cure. You should always know about the preventive aspects of each and every disease. Definitely save a lot of financial things. Other things next 5 years at the moment you are coming out of this one, you should be very familiar with these terminologies. Evidence-based medicine versus experience-based medicine. Evidence-based is basically on scientific principles, scientific studies, research, workup. Experience-based is individualism. And evidence, because nowadays patients' expectations are high, you should be always be thorough with the current knowledge of each and every disease or in each and every investigation. Based on that only, like you can tell for this disease, this much is the outcome, this much is the prognosis, all those things will be told by the evidence-based medicine. But at the same time, suppose if I say for a certain drug, there is nothing called 100% in medical science. The drug may affect, like suppose you take a corona in the current scenario, but the moderate patients of corona, you have to give a remdesivir, all those drugs. But is it 100%? No, it's only helpful in 80%, 20% it may not help. As an individual patient, you fall into 80%, 20%, still we are not able the person to decide. That again, that depends on the experience based that a senior physician or a clinician will decide. Other two terminologies, like our generation has gone off, like now the future generation, you have to be familiar is personalized medicine and precision medicine. This is mainly dependent on the new upcoming clinical branches like clinical genetics as well as the immunology plays a lot of importance. Now this generation from now onwards, it has to be very important. The main is that like certain, because a drug may be given to a one patient, two patients, one patient will respond, another patient will not respond. What is that reason? It all depends upon the pharmacogenomics of that individual. Now you know that our human genome is 100% mapped. Now each individual drug, individual disease, individual person is have a specialized genome for own this one. That's why future your prescription will be based suitable to that individual genetic phenotypic component. That's why I think till now we are not been so much into personalized medicine or a precision medicine. But I think next decade, every prescription will mention this. Personalized medicine, precision medicine. I think you should be thorough with this terminology. Basically, I just want to summarize like what is your goals? You have taken a good profession, but why I'm telling is sometimes in the middle of course or towards the end of going the course, I see some of the medical students want to go suddenly for an IAS, or they say we want to change the profession. I'm not finding fault, but at the same time, I just want to look your means deprived of a person who really wanted to do medicine. Whatever the decision you want to take, you take within first 6 months. That's the reason I think now the government of India has put into foundation course and trying to teach us how to assess your aptitude towards the profession, your interest to the profession. All those things are being taught. That's why you be very clear in specific goals. You should be measurable, and you should always have a goals which could be achievable. Don't have a too much unexpected. It should have a realistic, and most important is time bound. As Dr. Siddhartha Kumar has already said, you make it a time. Don't try to postpone. Then only you can achieve what you want to achieve. Like I just want to summarize core values you should learn over the coming next 4.5 to 5.5 years. Always respect the patient. Think that he has come to help you, teach you medicine. Indirectly, he may be benefit from your service, but always respect the patient. Achieve the complementary forces of competence and compassion you have to achieve. And again, I mentioned art and skill essential to the history-taking physical examination. These are not taught in any textbooks or by a teaching it. You have to learn by looking at your seniors. Technological resources and other things, you should be always updated. Again, I re-emphasize, in spite of so much of a scientific advance, history and physical examination are inseparable. The computer cannot replace you. It is what you do to build a trust, fruitful relationship with the patient. Computer can tell you statistics, how much is specific, how much is sensitive. But to that particular individual, what percentage it all depends upon how you take a judgment, how you take an intuitive decision. The patient-doctor relation should be always rewarding. Who is a good doctor? Who has got a talent and effort, like who always respects his skill. Who is a successful doctor? In addition to the skill, who has got a good communication skills, how to talk to the patients, how to talk to the caregivers, how you communicate about the disease process. One of the essential qualities of clinician is interest in the humanity. I would like to mention the two most powerful drugs in the world are two kind words from a good doctor. Never be harsh with the patient. He may be in distress, he may be angry, but still you should be able to maintain that compassion, empathy, and sympathy. And you should remember that in medical education, it's not the learning of the facts. Our aim is see that training your mind to think logically and properly. And here it will not be in medical course, there will not be much of a didactic lecture. It all depends upon how you want to learn. Don't wait for this class. Whatever, if you see a patient, regarding that patient, you should read yourself immediately. Our duty as a medical teacher is only see that how you should think rather than just mug up. Medicine is a science of uncertainty and an art of probability. Great physician William Osler said, medical science, though it's not a pure science like mathematics, physics, chemistry, it is a science, but it is an applied science and science of uncertainty. And it will be ever changing science compared to other branches. Lot of probability. This is there in all your clinical Hutchison and other books. To study the phenomena of disease without books is to sail uncharted sea. While to study books without patient is not go to the sea at all. Nowadays, I see a lot of people after final year during their internship, instead of learning the skills with the bedside, they go to the coaching center, prepare and read books again to study for the next NEET exam, PC exam. But that's not the correct method. That's why now I think you will understand over the years, now they are going to put next exam, all those things. Because of that, now at least the current generation of graduates who are coming out of the medical colleges have got a good medical knowledge, but without proper skills and communication skills. Here, you can study books, but without seeing the patient, just studying the books is not doing any justice to the profession. I would like to conclude